The one with the stain is a pretty brilliant episode of Friends. This is the 7th episode of the 8th season. It's directed by Kevin Bright, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. There are 3 parts to the narrative, so I'll talk about each part in turn and share some thoughts. And in general, I have nothing but praise for it. I found it to be a really delightful episode. So I'll talk about, I guess, Rachel first, and then Phoebe, and then Monica and Chandler. Rachel is looking for a place because she realizes that when the baby is born, it's going to be a bit crowded. Joey's not going to want to have the baby around when he has dates over. And it just so happens that somebody has died in Ross's building. Wouldn't it be great if Rachel got the apartment? And I have to say that would be great. That does seem like a really great solution. She's not living with Ross, but she's very close, and Ross can help raise the baby. And it turns out she didn't die. The woman is hanging on in there, and Ross is constantly checking to see if she's dead yet, which is kind of callous. And Joey actually says to Rachel that he hoped she would stay. He hadn't really thought it through because he figured a baby will not take up much space. Rachel explains that the baby will take up space, and what Joey does is so sweet, kind of gross, but really sweet. He finds a crib outside and he brings it up to the apartment, and he's showing Rachel, I don't care if it takes up space, I want you to stay. And it's so sweet and just absolutely adorable, and I love it so much. Joey is honestly probably the most, well, I was going to say the most selfless character. I suppose what he's doing is because of what he wants. He wants Rachel to stay, so maybe not. But he definitely has one of the biggest hearts, and this episode really, really helps to highlight that. We then have Phoebe, and Eric phones Phoebe. We met Eric in the previous episode. He was engaged to Ursula, and then he found out Ursula was lying about everything. So he broke it off with her. He phones Phoebe to ask her out on a date. And they have a date, but Eric gets angry every time he looks at Ursula because he's so annoyed at what she did. And of course, looking at Phoebe is like looking at Ursula. So it's a little awkward, but they have their first kiss and then their second kiss. And maybe they can push past this. Maybe they can have a relationship. And later on, Phoebe goes to visit Eric in what is kind of a chilling moment. It's very, very well done. And when she approaches Eric, Eric says that he's still pretty tired from this afternoon. And it's an intense moment. What could he possibly mean? Phoebe doesn't know. And there are 2 ways. There are 2 things it could have meant. Either, and this is not what it meant, but it could have meant that he'd got back with Ursula behind Phoebe's back. Or it meant, and this is what happened, he accidentally slept with Ursula. Because Ursula came up to the apartment, and as he explains it, he was just so excited to see her again, thinking it's Phoebe, that he didn't realise she'd changed her clothes, and he just kissed her and they had sex, and he just didn't realise it was Ursula and not Phoebe. I like the fact that Phoebe didn't make a huge deal out of it once he said that he didn't realise it wasn't her, because he was just so excited to see what he believed to be her, or who he believed to be her. Then she kind of realised he made a mistake and it wasn't intentional, and I liked that, and I thought it was a really sweet moment. So I like the fact that she didn't overreact, but I think it was a wise decision for them to realise that this just isn't going to work. It's just too creepy. Had they continued the story, had Eric appeared for longer, I would have been fine with that. I think he's a really good character, but I think they got the most out of that they could have done. And then we come to Chandler and Monica, and I have to say this is probably my favourite part of the episode. That being said, I don't think Chandler made the right decision. Behind Monica's back, he hired a maid. And there are 2 reasons why this is a problem. Well, 3, just in general. I guess the 3rd reason is that you shouldn't make any big decision in general without discussing it with your spouse. But the other 2 reasons, the first is that he hired somebody behind Monica's back, and that means that she wasn't in control of the situation, and that in itself was not great because we know how much Monica likes to be in control. The second reason is that we know Monica really likes cleaning, so why would Chandler take that away from her without at least suggesting the maid before hiring the maid? But Monica tries to be okay with it. She's not doing very well, but at least she tries. And then she notices that Brenda, played by Arden Myrin, is wearing her jeans. Brenda stole Monica's jeans, or so Monica believes, and she'll be able to tell because she dropped a pen and there's an ink stain on the crotch. So now she has to try and find this ink stain. And I'm assuming it's a very small stain because I imagine she would have picked up the pen pretty quickly. It wouldn't have left a huge mark. And she has to get up close and look at Brenda's crotch. And she has her head between her legs. And needless to say, it's very, very awkward. And before she can confirm anything, she then sees that Brenda is wearing her bra. And despite the fact that Chandler had pointed out it's possible the manufacturers made more than one pair of jeans that look the same, Monica is not letting this go. So she's now using Chandler to find out if it is her bra because it's got a rip on it. As Chandler points out, she needs new clothes. I don't necessarily agree with that. If they still function, keep on wearing them. But Chandler is going in and basically just says, show me your bra, and it's really uncomfortable, but it's very funny. Obviously, don't do this in real life, but within the context of the episode, it's quite entertaining. And when Chandler is talking with Brenda, that's not really the right word, harassing her more accurately, we get a really funny scene. And I think my favourite scene in the entire episode, Monica bumps into Rachel in the hallway, and it turns out Rachel's wearing Monica's jeans. She didn't ask for permission because she figured there's an ink stain on the crotch, she's not going to miss them. And also, Monica is wearing the bra that she thought Brenda was currently wearing. And I just thought it was fantastic. I thought the reveal was brilliant. And even though I've seen this episode many, many times and I knew it was coming, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. So I had a lot of fun with this episode. I think it's really strong, really entertaining. Personal highlights would be just how they handled Monica's part of the episode, Joey being so wonderful, and Ross's behaviour. I don't condone his behaviour, but certainly very funny. And that chilling moment when Eric said, I'm still pretty tired from this afternoon. So some really solid moments. I don't think if I were to name just 10 of the Best Friends episodes without thinking, I doubt I'd ever think of this one. I don't think that this one would come to mind immediately. But that being said, the one with the stain is a pretty fabulous episode of Friends. Can't fault it. And ultimately really thoroughly enjoyed it.